Hey guys! Today we're diving into another truly horrifying case. If you want to support my channel, make sure to subscribe and stay active. It really helps me out. I'd be super grateful for that. Let's get started. Along a deserted stretch of road in the state of Morelos, the body of a young woman was discovered. Passers-by, startled by the sight, immediately contacted emergency services. She was lying motionless, her clothes wrinkled and soiled, with visible bruising on her skin. There were no identification documents or personal items nearby to help establish who she was. For investigators, this marked the beginning of a case that would uncover a deeply troubling series of events. Ariadna Fernanda Lopez Diaz was born on July 5, 1995, in one of the tougher neighborhoods of Mexico City. Though her upbringing was marked by limited means, her home life wasn't without love. She was raised by her mother alongside her older brother, Omar. Their small family stuck together, even in the absence of a father figure who had shown little interest in being part of their lives. Omar stepped into that gap, becoming both a role model and protector for Ariadna, and their close bond gave her the sense of security that someone always had her back. Ariadna had a naturally warm and outgoing personality, which made her popular among peers. She was quick to make friends, known for her sincerity and willingness to lend a hand. Her school years were filled with close friendships and shared dreams about the future. But her young adulthood was shaken by tragedy. In 2018, when Ariadna was just 23, her mother was diagnosed with cancer. The illness advanced rapidly, and the family soon faced the devastating loss. The passing of her mother hit both Ariadna and Omar hard. The experience deepened their bond and forced Ariadna to mature quickly, stepping up to take responsibility for her own path. In memory of her mother, she got a tattoo with her name, carrying that legacy with her permanently. Even before her mother's illness, Ariadna had entered a relationship with a young man. Their connection developed quickly, and soon after she learned she was expecting. While the arrival of their son was a life-changing event, it didn't bring lasting stability. The couple realized early on that their relationship wasn't built to last, and they went their separate ways. Still, they maintained a cooperative relationship and shared parenting duties. As a mother, Ariadna faced new challenges. She had to balance raising her son with finding a steady job. Her first step toward financial independence came when she landed a position at a well-known bar in Mexico City, popular among affluent clients. The job came with high expectations, especially when it came to professionalism and social skills. It was there that she learned how to navigate interactions with a wide range of people. Despite the pressures, Ariadna met the demands of the job, relying on her charm and strong work ethic. When the pandemic hit, her life took another turn. The bar closed, and she lost her job. But instead of giving up, Ariadna saw it as an opportunity to chase a dream she'd long put on hold, opening her own beauty salon. This venture became a symbol of her determination to build a life on her own terms. Thanks to her experience and a solid network of contacts, she was able to establish a business that provided her and her son with financial stability. During this period, Ariadna entered a new relationship. She met a man with whom she quickly clicked, and their connection brought her a sense of joy and stability. Ariadna now divided her time between her son, her business, and the person she was growing close to. Her days were full, but she embraced them with gratitude, excited for every new opportunity that came her way. By the time she was 27, Ariadna's life resembled a carefully pieced-together puzzle. Every success, every hardship, had helped form a complete picture. She had endured loss, rebuilt her life from the ground up, focused on her son's future, and created her own independence. But what looked like the start of a bright chapter was, tragically, a prelude to something far darker. Ariadna met Vanessa through mutual friends. They first connected at a social event Ariadna attended with some girlfriends. Vanessa immediately stood out, young, energetic, and charismatic. She knew how to capture attention and engage with anyone in the room. But those who knew Vanessa well often described her as unpredictable. Beneath the charm were sharper edges, and her behavior sometimes caught people off guard. Rautel, a middle-aged entrepreneur, was often seen in Vanessa's circle. His name was surrounded by rumors. He was known for his wealth, influence, and lavish lifestyle. He was frequently spotted with younger women eager to be part of his inner circle. Whispers followed him, stories about high-level connections, even rumors of ties to organized groups. But no one in his social sphere could ever confirm anything. Rautel himself avoided direct questions about his background or dealings. His presence commanded respect and a quiet sense of unease. Though Ariadne was intelligent and independent, she didn't immediately grasp just how different these new acquaintances were from her usual social group. Vanessa, wanting to impress, often spoke of her close ties to powerful people, especially Rautel. She described him as someone who could make problems disappear. Slowly, Ariadne began spending more time with them. Vanessa seemed genuinely fascinated by Ariadne, showering her with attention and working hard to gain her trust. Once Rautel heard about Ariadne through Vanessa, he quickly took an interest in meeting her. At their first encounter, he caught her off guard with his attentiveness and conversation skills. His charm and confidence drew people in, and Ariadne was no exception. But beneath that smooth exterior was someone far more complex. Those who had crossed paths with him spoke of his manipulative tendencies. Still, Ariadne saw him as respectful, even kind. Vanessa continued to play a key role in strengthening the connection. She frequently invited Ariadne to gatherings where Rautel would be present, creating a setting that felt open and safe. But over time, subtle red flags began to appear. Ariadne's close friends started warning her to be cautious around these people. Some were aware of Rautel's questionable reputation and Vanessa's inconsistent behavior. They worried that this new circle could pose a hidden risk. Despite the warnings from friends, Ariadne didn't see her new social circle as threatening. To her, the friendship with Vanessa was a welcome distraction from daily stress, a chance to explore a world she hadn't had access to before. Rautel, for his part, worked to earn her trust, showing generosity and a warm demeanor. His invitations to dinners and parties seemed exciting and harmless. Though Ariadne was in a relationship with someone at the time, that didn't stop her from maintaining friendships or occasionally attending social gatherings. According to those close to her, her partner was someone who trusted her and never objected to her social life. Over time, Ariadne began to notice subtle shifts. Vanessa started calling more frequently, suggesting outings and making plans that revolved around shared leisure time. Rautel, meanwhile, gradually pushed to become a bigger presence in her life, positioning himself as someone who could always offer help or support. Slowly, Ariadne was drawn deeper into their world, unaware of where it might lead. On October 30th, 2022, Ariadne accepted Vanessa's invitation to spend the evening with friends. The meetup began at Fisher's, a trendy restaurant located in downtown Mexico City. Vanessa had assured her it would be a laid-back night with good food and fun conversation. Rautel was expected to join them as well, something that made Ariadne a bit uneasy. Although she had her doubts about him, she didn't want to upset Vanessa and decided to go anyway. The group gathered in the evening. Fisher's, known for its upscale crowd and stylish decor, buzzed with activity. At their table, the atmosphere was casual. Glasses of wine and cocktails flowed freely, and platters of appetizers made the night feel festive. Rautel, as usual, took center stage, telling stories, raising toasts, and showing off his rapport with the waitstaff. He projected confidence and made his presence known. Vanessa supported him, adding jokes and laughter to the mix. The rest of the group followed their lead, trying to keep up the upbeat tone. But Ariadne stood out. She didn't seem entirely at ease. She checked her phone often, replying to messages and scanning the screen with concern. Her eyes frequently drifted toward Rautel, as if trying to read something beneath the surface of his words or actions. Vanessa tried to pull her back into the conversation, encouraging her to relax and try another drink, but Ariadne remained composed, almost guarded. Her expression suggested that something was weighing on her, more than the setting could mask. Sometime mid-evening, Ariadne posted a cryptic message on her social media. "Would you miss me if I disappeared?" The post triggered unease among those who saw it. Some brushed it off as a joke, but for friends and co-workers who knew her well, the message didn't sound like something she would normally write. It left an odd feeling, one that, at the time, no one realized would be tied to her final hours. As the night wore on, the group decided to continue the evening at Rautel's house. The idea came from Rautel himself, and Vanessa supported it, saying it would be more relaxed and private there. Ariadne hesitated, but under pressure from her friend, she agreed. The rest of the group went along with the plan, and they all headed to the house in Rautel's vehicle. Rautel's home was located in an upscale neighborhood that matched his public image. The interior was sleek and modern with touches of luxury. When they arrived, the group settled into a spacious living room. Music played, Drinks flowed, and the evening continued, but Ariadna became increasingly uneasy. She stepped aside multiple times, checking her phone and pretending to take calls. Her distance and distracted demeanor were noticeable. Vanessa picked up on it and began whispering to Rautel, which only heightened the tension in the room. Near midnight, Ariadna said she wanted to go home, citing that she was tired. Vanessa, however, urged her to stay a little longer, just another half hour. Rautel remained quiet, but his gaze lingered on Ariadna in a way that made her visibly uncomfortable. Eventually, as the evening wound down, the guests began to leave. Ariadna was one of the last to go. After that night, no one in that group would see her alive again. The next morning, October 31st, 2022, something happened in the state of Morelos that would send shockwaves through the public. Two cyclists, out on a morning ride, came across a woman's body lying near the edge of a remote road. The location was far from major routes, in an area seldom visited by locals. The surroundings only deepened the grim atmosphere: sparse brush, dusty terrain, and an overwhelming silence. The woman was clothed, but her garments were soiled and torn. Her body bore multiple bruises and marks that looked like signs of physical trauma. The cyclists immediately contacted law enforcement, who arrived several hours later. In the meantime, the cyclists took photos of the scene, hoping to document details that could help with identification. When police arrived, they secured the area and began collecting evidence. Tire tracks were visible in the dirt, along with markings suggesting the body had been moved. Forensic specialists noted indications of a struggle, but the exact cause of death wasn't immediately clear. No weapons were found, and the body showed no obvious wounds that would explain what had happened. There were no documents or personal items on her that could confirm her identity. Hours later, images of the scene began circulating on social media, sparking a wave of public concern. Among those who came across the photos were friends and relatives of Ariadna who had gone missing after attending the gathering at Rautel's house. Her brother, Omar, recognized familiar features, including her tattoos, and feared the worst. He filed a missing person report and informed authorities that the woman found could very well be his sister. At the same time, a separate investigation was launched by authorities in the state of Morelos. However, the initial actions of the local police were met with heavy criticism. Protocols for collecting evidence were mishandled, and several key traces at the scene were never properly documented. This led to serious doubts about the integrity and professionalism of the local law enforcement involved. When Ariadna's family arrived to officially identify the body, their worst fears were confirmed. Omar recognized his sister by the tattoo on her shoulder, a tribute to their late mother. The shock was overwhelming and only deepened when they saw the condition of her body. Bruises and trauma on her face and arms clearly pointed to some form of aggressive behavior. Despite this, the initial statements from the police were vague and unconvincing. The family's first response was a call for justice. They immediately demanded a transparent investigation and that those responsible be held accountable. That same day, they reached out to friends who were active on social media to raise awareness. The campaign quickly spread, gathering attention from thousands of users. Despite mounting public pressure, the Morelos police held on to their theory that the death could have been accidental. They stated that a definitive conclusion could only come after the forensic report was complete. This stance only deepened suspicion, especially as whispers began to circulate that powerful individuals might be trying to obscure the truth. The first people investigators contacted were Rautel and Vanessa, as they were the last known individuals to have seen Ariadna alive. Their accounts formed the basis of the initial version of events. In his first statements, Rautel claimed that Ariadna decided to leave his house after the party and that she called for a taxi. He said she seemed a bit upset but not alarmed or distressed. According to him, he walked her to the door, after which she left on her own. Vanessa backed up his version, saying Ariadna left in a taxi and didn't say where she was headed. But inconsistencies in their story emerged quickly. The first red flag was the lack of any confirmed taxi record. Neither Rautel nor Vanessa could provide a driver's contact or any evidence to support their claim. Later, investigators found several taxi service logs in the area, but none had a record of picking up Ariadna that night. Another concern was Vanessa's shifting story. Her statements changed depending on the questions asked. Initially, she said Ariadna left alone. Later, she added that they had argued at the party, suggesting that Ariadna might have been emotionally affected. Friends of Ariadne told police that Vanessa had reached out to them after the disappearance, trying to imply that Ariadne may have been in a troubled state of mind, citing her cryptic social media post. That post, written just hours before she vanished, raised red flags for many. While her family and close friends originally saw it as a joke, investigators began to suspect it could be an indication of her emotional distress on the night of the party. Adding to the unease was Vanessa's increasingly nervous behavior. In messages to Ariadne's friends, she seemed eager to avoid discussing the night in detail. In one message, she even wrote that she feared being suspected, though she didn't clarify why. These signs made investigators more certain that Vanessa might be withholding key information. The initial findings in the case did not clearly explain what led to Ariadne's death. However, further investigation by law enforcement and independent experts uncovered critical evidence. 2 separate autopsies, surveillance footage, and messages retrieved from the suspects' phones became key in understanding what truly happened. The first official forensic report, conducted by authorities in Morelos, stated that Ariadne had passed due to asphyxiation caused by bronchial aspiration. According to the report, a combination of food and alcohol in her airways could have led to a fatal reaction. But her family immediately questioned this conclusion. They pointed to the numerous bruises and visible injuries on her body, which were not properly addressed in the report. Despite the official statement, Ariadne's loved ones demanded an independent second autopsy. With pressure from both the public and her family, Ariadne's body was transferred to an independent forensic institute in Mexico City. The results of this second examination completely contradicted the original findings. Experts found multiple injuries, including head trauma, bruises, and signs of physical aggression on her arms and legs that indicated possible attempts at self-defense. These findings confirmed that Ariadne's death could not have been accidental or purely related to alcohol consumption. Her passing was classified as the result of aggressive actions, allowing authorities to reclassify the case as a criminal offense. One of the most critical pieces of evidence came from security footage at Rautel's apartment building. In one of the recordings, Rautel was seen early the next morning after the party, carrying Ariadne's lifeless body to his car. Another camera captured him placing her into the vehicle and driving away. These videos served as undeniable evidence that he was involved in moving the body and possibly attempting to conceal what had happened. Further analysis of messages from the phones of Rautel and Vanessa revealed conversations in which they discussed what to say after the party. Their messages showed efforts to align their stories for law enforcement and justify their behavior to Ariadne's friends. Vanessa messaged Rautel about the growing pressure from Ariadne's family, and he reassured her that everything was under control. One of the messages included detailed instructions on how to respond to specific questions without raising suspicion. In her conversations with Ariadne's friends, Vanessa repeatedly suggested that Ariadne might have been struggling emotionally, hinting at a voluntary disappearance. This narrative clashed with the way friends described Ariadne as a vibrant, optimistic person with no history of emotional crises. These inconsistencies only deepened the suspicions surrounding Vanessa's role. Taken together, the second autopsy, the surveillance footage, and the text message exchanges painted a much clearer picture. Investigators concluded that the initial theory of an accidental death or voluntary departure from Rautel's home did not hold up. The evidence instead pointed to a violent act and a deliberate effort to hide the body. These findings formed the basis for legal action against both Rautel and Vanessa, who would soon have to face charges in court. Vanessa was the first to be taken into custody. Authorities discovered that she had been in frequent contact with Rautel in the days following Ariadne's death, discussing possible ways to avoid legal consequences. Her arrest took place under heavy media scrutiny. During her initial interrogations, Vanessa insisted that she had no involvement in Ariadne's death, but her statements were riddled with contradictions. She claimed that she had gone to bed early the night of the incident and was unaware of anything that happened afterward. However, further investigation revealed that this was not true. Message logs showed that she had been fully aware of the situation and had discussed key details with Rautel. Investigators also found that Vanessa had taken active steps to destroy potential evidence, deleting photos, conversations, and trying to distance herself from any connection to the aftermath. Realizing the weight of evidence stacked against him, Rautel decided to turn himself in. He arrived at the police station accompanied by his legal team and proclaimed his innocence. According to his statement, he did not commit a crime against Ariadna. Instead, he panicked after finding her unresponsive in his home the morning after the party and tried to hide her body, fearing he'd be blamed. Investigators, however, raised serious doubts about his account. First, the second autopsy had clearly established signs of physical trauma, contradicting his claim that she passed without interference. Second, surveillance footage showed him carrying her body in a deliberate manner, attempting to avoid being seen, behavior inconsistent with someone trying to get help. Additionally, his text exchanges with Vanessa revealed that they had coordinated their stories and actively tried to mislead others about what happened. At this point in the investigation, troubling new information emerged, suggesting potential corruption. There were growing suspicions of a connection between Rautel and a prosecutor in Morelos. The original autopsy report from that state had notably omitted any mention of injuries that indicated aggression. Public activists and Ariadna's family alleged that the prosecutor might have used their position to protect Rautel. These allegations sparked widespread public outrage. Authorities from Mexico City launched a formal review of the prosecutor's conduct, and Internal Affairs opened an independent investigation into possible misconduct. Some witnesses claimed that Rautel had connections with criminal groups, which could explain his apparent confidence that he would avoid consequences. Further questioning and newly uncovered evidence confirmed that at least one of the suspects knew more about what happened that night than they initially admitted. Still, both Vanessa and Rautel denied any direct wrongdoing, choosing instead to shift the narrative and focus on defending each other. Their evasiveness only fueled investigators' suspicions and played a major role in the decision to hold them in temporary custody. The motivations and circumstances surrounding that night became the focus of a prolonged and detailed investigation. Uncovering the truth required reconstructing the timeline, analyzing physical evidence, and closely examining the behavior of those present at the gathering. Slowly, a clearer picture began to emerge, one made up of conflicting statements, digital records, and psychological profiles of the key individuals involved. That night, the mood within the group gradually shifted. The evening started at a restaurant in central Mexico City, where Ariadna, Vanessa, Rautel, and a few mutual friends gathered for dinner and drinks. On the surface, everything seemed normal: laughter, conversation, music. But subtle cues suggested otherwise. According to witness statements and analysis of text messages, Ariadna appeared unusually quiet and preoccupied. She frequently checked her phone, sending messages and taking calls, behavior that friends later described as uncharacteristic for her at social events. That detail became crucial during the investigation. Her messages to a friend revealed that she had concerns about the gathering and expressed unease about some of the people present. After leaving the restaurant, the group headed to Rautel's home. The property, a large house surrounded by a high fence and monitored by security cameras, was known as a spot for private gatherings. Vanessa and Rautel played the roles of hosts, but there was a noticeable tension between them. Witnesses later recalled that Vanessa made several sharp remarks toward Ariadna during the night. Ariadna, trying to avoid any drama, responded calmly and did her best to steer clear of conflict. According to the investigation, as the evening wore on and alcohol took its toll, tensions escalated. Vanessa, already visibly emotional, raised her voice multiple times, accusing Ariadna of being disrespectful and unfriendly. No one else at the gathering supported these claims, but the atmosphere grew increasingly strained. Rautel attempted to stay neutral, though it was clear he was uncomfortable with Vanessa's behavior. The turning point came the following morning. Witnesses stated that Ariadna was seen heading toward the exit, seemingly trying to leave the house. But for reasons still under investigation, she returned shortly after. It's believed that Vanessa continued confronting her at that point, leading to a more heated argument. Investigators suspect the root of the conflict was jealousy. Vanessa allegedly accused Ariadna of drawing too much attention from Rautel. Messages recovered from phones confirmed that Vanessa and Rautel had later discussed tense moments from that night. Once most of the guests had left, only a few people remained inside the house, including Vanessa, Rautel, and Ariadna. According to the case file, Vanessa, under the influence of alcohol, became increasingly aggressive. At some point, investigators believe, an altercation occurred that resulted in the fatal injuries Ariadna sustained. Why did Ariadna post such a strange message on social media that night? At first, many thought it was a joke, but close friends have since confirmed she was likely uncomfortable due to Vanessa's behavior and the tense vibe at the gathering. The post may have been her way of expressing distress or signaling unease. As the timeline was reconstructed, it became evident that Vanessa's jealousy, amplified by alcohol and emotional instability, played a critical role in what followed. Rautel, rather than calling for help, seemed to focus on covering up what had happened. Actions that ultimately made the situation worse. The combination of personal conflict, unchecked emotions, and poor decisions led to a tragedy that might have been prevented if the environment that night hadn't been so volatile. Ariadna's 6-year-old son is now in the care of her older brother, Omar. As the closest male figure in her life, he has stepped up to fill the role of both guardian and father figure. Omar has taken on full responsibility, not only providing for the child's needs, but also preserving his sister's memory and giving her son the love and stability Ariadna once gave so freely. The rest of the family has come together around him, determined to help the boy navigate this loss and ensure he grows up surrounded by care and support. Ariadna's family played an active role in the ongoing push to uncover the full truth behind her death. They organized protests, launched social media campaigns, and worked tirelessly to keep public attention on the case. One of their biggest achievements was drawing the interest of international media, which significantly increased pressure on Mexico's judicial system to act with transparency. The preliminary court proceedings in Ariadna's case became a critical turning point in the pursuit of justice. Despite resistance from certain authorities, her family and their legal team succeeded in ensuring the case was handled openly and fairly, with all aspects thoroughly examined. Every phase of the investigation and court process was closely followed by the public and the press, leaving little room for cover-ups or misrepresentation of facts. The legal process began by zeroing in on the roles played by Rautel and Vanessa. During the hearings, prosecutors presented compelling evidence, including surveillance footage, audio recordings, and messages retrieved from their phones. These materials supported claims not only of their involvement in concealing Ariadna's body, but also of their possible role in acts of aggression leading up to her death. The defense argued that the entire situation was a tragic accident, but the volume of witness statements and forensic evidence cast serious doubt on that explanation. A central focus of the trial was determining the motive behind the crime. Witnesses familiar with Vanessa described her as emotionally volatile and prone to outbursts, especially under the influence of alcohol. Rautel, meanwhile, was portrayed as someone with a shady past and alleged ties to criminal networks, details that raised further questions about his involvement that night. Though both defendants denied responsibility for Ariadna's death, their testimony often conflicted with the established facts, intensifying suspicions against them. As of now, a final verdict has not been reached, and the investigation remains active. However, based on the evidence gathered, prosecutors have filed charges of homicide, potentially classified as femicide, a crime driven by gender-based hostility. In Mexico, such a classification is considered an aggravating factor and could lead to a maximum sentence of up to 70 years in prison if both suspects are found guilty. Thanks for watching, everyone. Your support means a lot to me, and you can help my channel grow by hitting that like button, dropping a comment, and sharing this video. Your engagement really makes a difference. See you soon.